fire forever. Huh? An interesting thought, huh? I heard a preacher say it one time, and it caught me by surprise. What? You mean the fires that destroy the wicked are for the righteous to live forever? Yes. You can live right in the fire in God's presence forever if you're righteous. The dead are destroyed. Because God's presence is a consuming fire, right? Only to the wicked. The righteous will live in the fire forever. How beautiful, huh? Makes you think, huh? Makes you think. Just like last night I told you God had to be saved. And that caught a lot of people by surprise too. Look at this one here. Workers for Christ are never to think, much less to speak of failure in their work. When we bought the television network in Bolivia, 1 month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months went by, 4 months went by, 5, 6. Every time, I don't have the money yet. Never mind, David, maybe next month. I don't have the money yet. Never mind, next month. Man, Lord, this is a miracle. This is not normal business. Most people would take away your property. If you can't pay for it, give it back. 17 months, and they still allowed us to transmit. And I'm saying, Lord, you must have some miracle up your sleeve, because we are far beyond the limits of human compassion. No normal human being would forgive us for 17 months a $1.5 million debt. I knew God could do it any time, but for the life of me, I didn't know why He was doing it. But I knew I could trust Him. And so I read people say, David, are you going to lose it? No, we're not going to lose it. How do you know? Because it says here, we're not even to think, or worse, less, speak of failure. Of course it won't fail. But David, it's been 18 months. I'm sorry. That's not my problem. My problem is to trust God, and He's going to do it whenever He wants to. But that was really hard. Can you imagine 18 months? It was like 18 months in the fire. And all my friends, for the first few months, they were certain I was going to lose it. After a year, they were beginning to doubt. This is not a normal thing. And after 18 months, they knew something was wrong, and they were afraid that they might be wrong. And they were wrong, because God paid for it on the last day. When we give ourselves wholly to God and in our work follow His directions, He makes Himself responsible for its accomplishment. Not once are we even to think of failure. We are to cooperate with one who knows no failure. Can you imagine why this military intelligence is so important? Imagine if you didn't know that. Imagine if you didn't know that we can even think of failure. It's wrong to think of failure. God can never fail. Now, can we fail God? Yeah, I mean, we should be very careful not to fail God. If I lose faith, no, I don't think so, I'm going to give up. This is failing God. In God, there's some things God cannot do. If we fail God, there's some things that He cannot do. So God says, I will never fail you. Don't even talk about it. Now, in fact, He is well pleased when we make the very highest demands upon Him, that we may glorify His name. We can expect large things if we have faith in His promises. Just like the king. Smiles real big. Finally, a person who treats me like a king. Granted. God is well pleased when we make the very highest demands, that we may glorify His name. In proportion to the enthusiasm and perseverance with which the work is carried forward will be the success given. You want to stay in bed? Even God cannot give you success. Now, if you were a paralytic, that would be different, if you have no choice. But if you want to stay in bed and have an easy life, don't go around asking God to give you Sydney. Don't even ask for Penrith. Ask Him to barely keep you alive. That may be the most He can give you, because you might die of a heart attack in bed. But if you really have enthusiasm and perseverance and you succeed and you say, God is going to give it to me. I prayed for it. It's a done deal. It's mine. I'm going to get it. Nobody can stop it. We need to have less confidence in what man can do and far more confidence in what God can do for every believing soul. But this brother so-and-so, sister so-and-so, have you heard it? She's a multimillionaire. Why? If we include them on our board, just think what they can do for this project. Huh? That's the way we think, huh? Let's put them on a general conference committee. They have billions. It's easy to get on GC committee if you're a billionaire, by the way. Try it. Go count how many lay people are billionaires on a GC committee. It's easy. You give a few million, boom, you get named to the highest committee. Now, that doesn't mean there's corruption. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you have money, the human eyes see this is very good. Give them the front seat. Put them on a committee. They probably will give us more. Write a book up. There's a guy in Brazil that's a billionaire, and the division published a big old book. They paid for everything. They published his whole life and distributed it everywhere. And he gave him millions for it. Very good. That was a good business deal, wasn't it? I really felt sorry for him. He asked me to come visit him. I went there to Brazil. He brought his $1 million helicopter over, picked me up, took me over to his $8 million island. I spent the weekend with him on his island. I said, now, where's your children? Oh, they're in their $10 million homes. I said, but what, don't you have grandchildren? Yes. I said, how often do they come here? They have never been here. Well, what about your children? They never come. But what about your wife? She has her own business. I said, you have an $8 million island with all this beauty, and your grandchildren have never been here? They don't want to come. They don't like to be with grandfather. And your children never come? No, they're living in their own world. And your wife? Living in her own world. I said, I really feel sorry for you. What is worth $8 million if you don't have your children? You don't have your grandchildren. Good night. Put me on a little island that's worth 10 cents and I'll enjoy my kids. Put me on a beach somewhere. I will enjoy them anywhere, but give me my family. I said, I am so sorry for you. I said, is that what money did to you? He hung his head and said, yes. He changed the subject. We spent the evening talking together on some chairs on the deck out looking over the ocean. And then he said, why did you come here? I said, you invited me. He said, but didn't you have something in mind? Yeah. I wanted to get to meet you. I wanted to talk to you. But didn't you want to ask me anything? No. He said, well, tell me about your TV network. So I told him. He said, have you paid for it? Not yet. Do you think you're going to pay for it? Absolutely. Well, what makes you so certain? God gave it to me. It's on satellites. It's in homes of nearly 100 million people. God is using it to bring a lot of people to the knowledge of truth. I said, this is God's work. Why should I worry about how He pays His bills? That's not my problem. Are you sure He's going to do it? Absolutely. And I kept thinking, maybe He's going to use this old man. And finally he said, okay, we'll see what He does. The next day, he called his helicopter, picked me up, took me to the airport in Rio. You know that in Rio they have on top of the mountain they have a Christ? The helicopter pilot said, David, among pilots, you want to go around and look at the Christ? Love to. So he went, we went around a couple times. I said, thank you, that was really, really fun. He said, how did you get along with the old man? I said, we get along great. Did he give you anything? I didn't ask. He said, almost everybody who comes here to ask him for money. I said, not me, because he doesn't own anything. What do you mean he doesn't own anything? I said, my philosophy is that God owns everything and He owns nothing. He's only a manager. Why should I ask the manager? I go right to the owner. He goes, you're the first one I'd ever flown in my helicopter that thought like that. He sends me to pick up people all the time, and they all ask him for money. I said, well, I'm glad just to be his friend. This is one that cares nothing for his money. But he's on a division committee, on a GC committee. Everybody in the world asking for money. He stands in line. You know what? What a sad condition to be in. Be humble. If God has blessed you with resources, your greatest joy should be using them for God's work. And if you have a little bit, man, are you blessed. A lot less responsibility on your shoulders. Much easier to be saved if you have a little bit. If you have a lot, it's hard to let go. Be so